Are you stuck with your busy schedule? Have you forgotten the purpose of your life? Get ready to ignite your faith, deepen your relationships, and find inspiration in everyday life to enlighten your forgotten life purpose. Hear fresh, dynamic ideas, all from a faith perspective with our renowned speakers that will leave you with something to ponder. Here's CANA Talks, a roadmap to happiness.
Final speaker of the night, ladies and gentlemen, and we are talking about, really, in fairness, I don't think you mind me saying this, the boss man, Stephen Giblin, because
he's
Stephen
given out all evening,
and his lovely wife Laura have put blood, sweat and tears into making this night a success. They've worked so hard for so long to ensure that it's a night of enjoyment, a night of contemplation, a night of prayer, a night of calmness, and I think they've really achieved that. So we're now going to get Stephen to talk. He's going to talk about chosen to be you. And we live on a speck of dust in a universe that is so vast, it's hard to comprehend. So what are the chances of you being here at all? More importantly, do you have a purpose? Chosen to be you stands at the juncture between two major themes of CANA Talks, a roadmap to happiness, faith and science. Ladies and gentlemen, Stephen Giblin.
In 1977, two NASA space probes, Voyagers 1 and 2, were launched. And the purpose of this mission was to explore the outer solar system before they'd move on into interstellar space, that huge area, that vast area between the stars. By 1990, Voyager 1 was passing by the planet Neptune. And Carl Sagan, famous scientist at that time, managed to persuade NASA to instruct the cameras on the spacecraft to turn and to take a series of images of the solar system from that particular vantage point. Now, normally, when we see the Earth from space, because the Earth was included in these images, we see it something like this, close up. But you see, Voyager 1 was a very, very far out, as I say, passing Neptune. So it was at a distance of 6 billion kilometers, or 3.7 billion miles out from the sun. So the Earth looked like this, a mere speck of dust. In fact, you probably would even struggle to see it. You can just see there. It's a speck of dust caught in a sunbeam against the vast blackness of the universe. And this image was taken not for science reasons, but to help humanity gain some kind of perspective on its home in the universe, to make us feel vulnerable, because we are vulnerable physically, and it's a good thing to be vulnerable. Sagan would argue in his book, The Pale Blue Dot, that life is too short, too fragile for our egos, our wars, and our self-destructive tendencies. Indeed. So that's why this image was shown, to give us perspective. But though we may be vulnerable, that does not mean that we are insignificant. Because 2,000 years ago, God, in the person of Jesus, also lived on this speck of dust. And he would not have come if you were insignificant. You are significant because you are unique, because you have a purpose. And it's a miracle that you're here at all. Now, a lot of different things had to come into play in order for you to be here in the first place. At the level of everyday circumstances, at the level of biology and genetics, even at the level of geology, and certainly cosmology and physics. It all had to line up for you to be here. Now, we'll stay for a moment with cosmology and physics. I'm not going to be a big science lecture here, but The universe looks like it has been finely tuned so that life, complex biological life, such as ourselves, could eventually emerge. Scientists often talk about the fine-tuning, and they talk about universal constants. A universal constant is essentially a number. It controls the equations of physics, it controls the natural laws, the laws of nature, particularly in the universe. An example would be the speed of light. Light travels at 300,000 kilometers per second, or 186,000 miles per second. And it's been that way from the beginning, from the moment of the Big Bang. And it will be that way forevermore. And it's that way all throughout the universe. It's a constant. It's always the same. And there are other constants as well. So we have, for example, the gravitational constant. This is the fine-tuning that I'm speaking about. And it's like God has literally fine-tuned the universe for us. And here we have Isaac Newton, very famous scientist who discovered gravity. So gravity is one of the constants as well. Now with gravity is something that obviously it's one of the fundamental forces in nature. It controls the motion of the galaxies, it controls the motion of stars, of planets, and it keeps our feet on the ground. But if that gravitational constant had varied by just a tiny amount, by just 1 in 10 to the 60th parts, we could not be here. I'll show you what that number looks like. It's a colossal number. Now, to give you an analogy to help you understand that, it's like if you had a tape measure and you rolled it out across the entire length of the universe. That within itself is very hard to comprehend. But if you did that, and then you put a tiny mark on that tape measure, that represents the narrow range for life, the life-permitting range. So, for example, scientists have known for over a century that the universe is expanding. So if we were just 1 inch to the right or 1 inch to the left, either the universe would have expanded so fast that there could be no galaxies, there could be no planets, there could be no stars, and there could be no us. Or the other way, it would have collapsed back on itself into one big black hole. Again, there would be no galaxies, there would be no stars, no planets, and no us. So it all worked out, if you like, exactly the way it needed to in order for us to be here. So that in itself is unbelievable. But scientists have identified at least 20 universal conditions and constants with odds like this. So the chances of us being here are truly phenomenal. It's a miracle that we're here. We could say, is it by random chance? Not likely. So it's a balancing act. And that's an understatement, that image, but it sure is a balancing act. So we're on this speck of dust in this vast universe, and you have a purpose. Now, a purpose is very important because it's one of the things that makes us fundamentally happy. When we thrive, we tend to strive. Or should I say the other way around? When we strive, we tend to thrive. And when we reach the pinnacle of whatever it is that we're striving for, we tend to either stagnate or we go backwards. So we're built for going forwards with purpose. And purpose is not what other people desire for you. You know, the world, if you let it, will shape you into something that you are not. It's you who has to do, you have to make your impact in the world, not have the world leave its impact on you. And purpose is not to be confused with success either. Jesus in the Gospels never speaks about success. He speaks about bearing fruit, a very big difference. Success is more about you and you only, whereas bearing fruit is about others. It's about what you do for others through you. And purpose is what you have, not a mission. There's only one mission, and that belongs to Christ. That's his mission, the building of God's kingdom. But you can and should align yourselves to that. So what you have is a purpose within the framework of Christ's mission. So how do you discover your purpose? Obviously, I can't tell you what your life's purpose is. You decide that for yourselves, or you have to discover it for yourselves. But it's connected to your inner traits, what's in your inner being. And traits can be used for good, for bad, or for nothing at all. So an example would be St. Paul. Aside from Jesus, St. Paul is probably the most famous person or the most influential in human history. With Paul, Christianity really went up a whole new level. This man truly meant business. And more than that, Paul, by his own admission, said that prior to his road to Damascus experience, he was a very zealous individual. And he persecuted the early Christian movement violently. But then when he embraced Christ, the zealous nature that he had, rather than cause mayhem, he started to preach Christ, to preach the gospel, so he used it for good. Now, there's a story of Paul. He's in the city of Lystra in modern-day Turkey. He's with his companion, Barnabas, and they're preaching the gospel, and they heal a paralytic. And a group of Jews come into the city, and they grab Paul, they stone him, they drag him out of the city, out of the walls, throw him to the ground, and leave him for dead. And his companions then gather around him, Paul's companions. They think he's dead as well. But Paul then gets up off the ground. You think he'd run for the hills at that point. But no, Paul goes back into the city to finish the job. Now that is zeal. And it's also a Christian. So, whatever traits we have, whether it's zeal, whether it's perseverance, endurance, patience, the ability to communicate, a sharp mind, a wise mind, whatever it is that we have to grab hold of it, we have to bring it out into the open, we have to cultivate it, develop it, and put it to good use, and allow God to work through that. Our purpose is linked to our inner traits, those things we were born with, whatever is natural to us, that gives us energy, things where we're comfortable, and so on. That's where we will find our purpose. And that's then when we can start to transform the world, just like Paul did. We also have to bear in mind that transforming the world does not necessarily mean conquering things. It doesn't mean something on a huge scale. It could be something small. Being a parent, it's something, small in the eyes of the world, but not small in the eyes of God. And I would say as well that you'll find that your purpose is usually a lot more than you would initially think that it is. I'm going to finish with this man here. This is Jeremiah. He's one of the great prophets of the Old Testament. And God said to Jeremiah, "Before I formed you in the womb, before you were even conceived, I knew you, and I appointed you to be a prophet to the nations." Now, of course, you're not necessarily meant to be a prophet to the nations, but you do have a life's task in the same way that Jeremiah did, because God also knew you before you were born. before you were even conceived. Before you were conceived, you were a thought in God's eternal mind. And as a thought in God's eternal mind, you were chosen to be you. Thank you.